go. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Okay. I will call the meeting to order at 7:05. We'll do a roll call. Keisha Lee. You're on mute, but Sue Rich,
Present.
Ed Kastner,
Present.
Rob Huerman,
Here.
Carla Patterson,
Present.
Mary Kay Santu.
Here.
Okay. Councilman Waldman.
I am here on behalf of your commission liaison, Pro Tem Weil.
Assistant Director Don Chance
Here.
and Director Beverly Tucker Knight.
I'm here.
We have a quorum. Are there any written communications?
We do not have any, no.
Okay. Are there any citizens online that would like to speak to the commission?
I'm going over right now to check. The only person we have right now is your first special presentation.
Okay. Seeing that there are none, we will talk about our special presentation, the Eagle Scout candidate Trenton Elliott and his project proposal. And Beverly, if you can give some background, then we'll bring him over to present to us.
Great. I'm going to promote into panelist and then I'm going to turn it over to Don LaChance because he has been working with this young man and he will give you the introduction. So welcome, Trent.
Okay, so Trenton called me and asked me if we were, he needed to do his Eagle Scout project, and him and I talked over some projects that the park was in need of, and he came back to us and suggested maybe bat boxes. And quickly, briefly talking with Beverly, we thought it might be a great thought and a plan to do bat boxes in all 5 of our parks. Went back to Trenton Trent should say, and he started doing the behind the scenes work on what it's going to cost, and is here tonight to get approval from the commission to move forward with this project if you see fit.
Okay. So Trent, could you do a presentation on what you're proposing to do, please?
Of course.
He might need to share his screen.
Yeah.
And if you can also give us a little bit of biographic information on yourself as well. Thank you.
Here you go. My name is Trenton Elliott. I am 17 years old, and I am a part of Troop 648. I've been doing scouts for probably since 1st grade now. And I'm working to get my Eagle done and hopefully go from there.
Great.
I had a few inspirations and thoughts whenever I came to the bat box idea. A few interests where I really like nature. I'm always going camping. I like going camping with the troop, and overall, I just think it's a fun hobby. And I also think this project would help benefit the area and to help just overall make the ecosystem a better area for all the things living there and make it a prettier place. It'd also be beneficial to the parks in quite a few ways. And it could be a fun project for our troop. It'll also add a few more sights for people to see later on, such as bats flying around and the different ways that they could possibly help the area. The importance is they keep bats from nesting on the buildings, and they don't cause a huge ordeal when it comes to them roosting on buildings and or acting as a pest. It helps provide different areas for endangered species of bats. And it helps lower the populations of insects and other pests that they eat. They help fertilize the area and overall help the plants and make more wildflowers and different sorts of plants grow. The bats that will live in the bat boxes will also be a key pollinator for the ecosystem, and would help the area just thrive better, and more animals show. Specifications, they must be 10 feet above the ground, 12 to 20 feet is ideal. They're more attracted to the boxes if they're placed within 15 or 100 feet of a permanent pond or stream. They should not be shaded by trees. They need at least 7 plus hours of morning sunlight in order to be sufficient for them to live in, and they must be facing 140 degrees southeast. They need to be resealed and repainted every 5 years or so. That's not always the case, though. That leads me to the durability of the materials. The bat boxes and mounts are offered to outlast most other bat houses, and last for a decent amount of time. The Day Lodge, which is the company that told me about the bat boxes, said they're going to outlast most other wooden bat box. The roof is. They also said the roof is the thick plastic, and it's not and the mounting position is not very bearing on the joints. And the paint that I chose is estimated to be or last from around 5 to 10 years, which is about the average of the paint on, let's say, the exterior of a house. Here's a list of the materials, such as the bat box right here, which I will. It needs to be assembled, obviously. And here's the overall look and scheme to it. As a plastic roof, it's made of plywood. It is 3 chambered, so it fit a decent amount of bats in it. And is decently easy to assemble. Here's the mount for mounting it on the tree itself, so it doesn't harm it as much. And then here's the paint that I found, which I chose dark gray because it's it's warmer in the bat boxes, which the bats need in order to in order for them to live there. And some extra materials such as for painting it, which is just a normal brush. The overall price would be $627.30 without tax for 5 back boxes in total. It was kind of, I had to keep updating the price pretty often because, prices and such are going up,
Yes.
especially for wood. And yeah, and or for the funding, I have contacted the Bat Box company, and they said if I buy 6 of them, they would offer a discount of 20%. And then Home Depot also offers discounts for Eagle Scout projects. So if I went to the store and wore my uniform, they would offer it, and if I had a letter also. I've also applied for jobs myself. I recently did an interview for Deerbergs in order to help fund some of it. I also will try to provide at least, I think, $150 of it, but the rest of it I will probably have to fundraise by or donations or fundraisers from other means, such from like people from around the neighborhood or people who want to contribute from the troop. And fundraisers, I was thinking I could possibly get some candy bars and go door to door or sell them in front of a store or such, and sell them for $1 a piece or something like that. And yeah, thank you for having me here. And
Yeah, what questions do people have? Thank you, Trent.
So, Trent, great presentation. Thank you. A few questions. You said these boxes have a 5-year lifespan on them. What is your plan for continued maintenance and or retirement of these boxes after 5 years?
I was thinking possibly I could every 5 years or so I could come back and or repaint them, give them a good overall seal, and check on the overall maintenance. These are also self-cleaning, so not much maintenance will need to be done within those 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So all the let's say guano and such, will just kind of fall out and self-clean itself.
Make a nice looking tree, right? Fertilize a nice tree.
Yep.
Great. And this may be for a question to the as much to you as it is to the city. So for instance, in Stacy Park, I've noticed quite a few different types of bird boxes, critter boxes have been up in the trees more than I've noticed in the past. Where do you anticipate putting these boxes throughout the city? And is there any reason to believe, I know that they eat a lot of, help keep the mosquitoes down, which is great, a great help to bats, but is there any other ecological issues based upon all the other bird boxes that are out there that we should be considering?
There's not really any that I can think of at the moment. I know they benefit them in very many ways, or benefit the ecosystem around the area, but I don't think that any of the other critter boxes of the sort would have an effect on it. They would kind of just go around the park in like a tree has a good face or a good amount of sunlight,
Mm-hmm.
And probably they could go near a trail. That would be okay. But they could be placed really anywhere with sunlight.
And then is there a need for any in-kind services from the city to install these? Scissors lift or a ladder or what have
Maybe a ladder. All the other tools that are required, I think the troop can provide.
you? Okay,
And yeah,
great, thank you.
And I think the city has a bucket truck, because I know the bucket truck was assisted the Eagle project that was related to the bird houses.
All the
So,
more fun.
Trent, a question that I have is, how are these mounted to the trees so that they don't injure the trees?
well, it's drilled into the tree, so it would harm it in some fashion, but it wouldn't harm it as much as, let's say, hanging it from a screw. So
Okay.
it'd still leave a mark on the tree. It's just not much as a hanging one would.
Okay, so they're just attached to somehow
Yeah.
attached to the tree. Okay.
It could go on like a wooden pole too, but or something of a other sort. But yeah,
Okay. And how, just for my own information, how do bat houses attract bats? I mean, do you just put them up and they will come?
yeah, they kind of eventually come. They see it as like a nice warm place, and it's very sheltered for them. So they find it attracting, especially with the darker color that I chose.
Okay. Are there other questions that people have of Trent?
Yeah, hi Trent, Ed Kastner. Couple of quick questions, kind of like following up. In your plan, do you have a resource, a person that maybe can walk the parks with you and identify suitable trees? Because I know that the specifications, I know that what a bat needs to be attractive to a house can sometimes, be within a matter of degrees on how something's installed, or the placement, or even known sightings of where bats currently are. I don't know, do you have access to anyone who might have expertise in that area? That would be my first thought.
I do not currently. Maybe I might have to look for someone in the future who can. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So I think maybe that might be an important thing to investigate, because I'm sure the last thing you want is to do all this work and then year after year to not be able to attract bats. And even in the best of circumstances, that may not happen. And it's not always a for sure thing. I have a little bit of experience with that with a different species. And I also have a suggestion you probably have considered for fundraising, but was successful for my daughter, who built a chimney swift tower, and she did it almost solely through GoFundMe. There are tons of people out there that are really interested in doing what they can for the environment, and projects like yours are really appealing. So I know it's a pretty simple thing to do, and if it nets you a couple $100 that you, just by sitting for a couple minutes on the computer, is probably good times spent. And I know she was successful at raising over $600 just through the GoFundMe from complete strangers. So, other than dad, But anyway, I love your project. I love bats. I tried having a couple in my own yard. I walk Warson Park. I see them every night. There are many of them in Warson Park. They're beautiful to see, and I applaud you and thank you for taking this on.
Thank you.
Here.
Okay. What
Mr.
is
Chairman, I was going to say, do we need anything official here?
Yeah, I was going to ask what the next steps are, Don, or or Beverly.
So I'm happy to take it. So I think that I want to, first of all, say thank you very much to Trent. This is a very exciting for us because it also fits in with our increasing biodiversity in our parks. And I appreciate you working with Dawn on this. I think that the commissioners have given some fantastic feedback. So what I'd like to do is have Dawn and Trent go back and incorporate some of that to the project. And then Trent has to formalize his project and get approval from his troop, and then we sign off on it. So I think tonight's been fantastic. I think we've had some great input, and I think it's gonna help it make an even better project.
Okay,
I have
well,
one more small thing, and that is that you can use wood pallets. If you find the right ones that haven't been pressure treated, you can use all that wood to make a bat house too. So you could cut a little bit of cost. I don't know the advantage. I haven't looked at the kit, but just an idea. And I'm Mary Kay.
Yeah, I was looking at a few like DIY or DIYs, like bat boxes such as that from pallets and such too. There's a lot of different designs out there,
Okay,
and
bet there
just-
is.
kind of settled on that one. I don't know.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
well, thank you, Trent, and thank you, Don, for putting this together. And we meet on, let's see, what is this? The third Wednesdays of the month. So if you can put something together, we can bring it up at the next meeting.
That might actually not be necessary, Jim. From this point, your feedback we incorporate into his design, and then the city has to sign off on the project. But we never do these projects without the park commission weighing in and making suggestions and improvements on the project.
Yeah, and who from the city signs off on the project? How does that work?
The department head signs off.
Okay, you.
Me, I sign off.
Okay, so do we need to do any motions or anything, or?
You don't, but I will record your suggestions and we'll make sure that they're incorporated into Trent's project.
Great, okay. Thank you so much for your presentation, Trent, and good luck on it. And with your approvals from your troop and moving forward.
Okay, and we'll make sure that updates come back so you know what's going on. And then Trent, I'm going to take you off as a panelist, so you're welcome to listen to the rest of the meeting, or you can go about your day and do something else. So thank you very, very much.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thanks, Trent.
Okay. Okay. Okay, next are the minutes of the April 21st. I think they are late breaking minutes.
Late breaking minutes, that's right.
And is there, if we want to, if anybody wants to review them,
Oh, and I put up the wrong document. So. Look at that. I put up the April 1st ones that you
Oh,
already,
why don't we delay the approval of the minutes till later?
got
on
it.
in the
I'm
meeting?
happy to. You have a packed agenda, so I'm happy.
Okay, so we'll go on to the director's report.
Great. Okay, so this evening for the director's report, I wanted to give you an update that we started a new program this winter that we copied actually from the Riverlands, and that's a storybook walk. And I think some of you actually may have actually seen. So the first one we did is the Snowy Day, and it went out along the pathway at Indian Meadows. And it was great because it was bitterly cold and horrible, but it was, but people actually were able to read it along there. And then we are going to rotate it to other parks, but we're going to hold it in reserve and bring it back out next winter. So we made these in-house and they have a really nice coating on them. So we can, the plan is to rotate each story through each park and to have 5 in rotation. And then in the springtime, we did one along the Sassafras Trail in Warson Park. This one didn't fare as well. We had that pretty heavy wind and a bunch of them blew away, but we got them back, all but I think one. So this one, I believe, is slated, Dawn, help me out. Is this one going to Stacy next, or is it going to another park?
I think Stacy is the next one.
Okay,
I think she's looking for a bigger story to fit the path appropriately.
okay, yeah, this story is much longer than the Snowy Day, so this has the most panels. And by she, Dawn means Peyton and Megan have done these in-house. And I think Peyton took the lead on the Bunny's Book Club. And then we'll unveil a third one during the summer, and then we'll keep that rotation going. But I think it's really nice. It started during the pandemic as a way for people to enjoy the trails and be out and about in the park. Okay, then pavilion operations. So since I wrote this last week, big new guidelines came out from the county. So it sounds like we are pretty much going to be opening wide up for a lot of things. But right now, we still are seeing a lot of, we're seeing increased park reservations at our parks, which is wonderful. That started during the pandemic. Until last week, we've kept the caps in there for the number of people, but we'll be releasing those back up to normal levels. Also, Villa and Irvside are really doing well with the online booking. So people can now reserve those pavilions from the comfort of their own home and pay us online. And we've implemented a new 48-hour limit so that if you do a reservation online, you have to do it within 48 hours. So just so that we can know that someone's going to be there and have it cleaned and prepped for them and have their reservation sign up. So that was something we learned when you can do it instantly. People can book it the same day, and then we had no idea. So that was a really good enhancement that the staff Peyton actually was able to do that. And then Stacy, we still are requiring that you contact us because that is our biggest pavilion. And that is where a lot of the special events are allowed. So we really need to walk through the protocols and criteria with people for that park because we really want to make sure that everybody knows what's allowed and what's not allowed. Then we are back using Revive Janitorial on the weekends. This summer, however, they're only cleaning on an as-needed basis. So they're cleaning pavilions that are rented on the weekends. During the pandemic, they were cleaning every single pavilion every day and every restroom every day. But now we're back to just doing it for where those reservations are. And that's so far so good. That's working out really well. And our park crews go in first thing Monday morning and everything is looking really well. Prior to the pandemic, we did not have a lot of issues with our restrooms over the weekend. So I'm sure that that'll continue the same way. The park crews are continuing with getting everything done. They're a little bit delayed because of all the mowing that they're doing this year, as opposed to having the contractors do 100% of the mowing, but they've done a big replacement project. Dawn, how many park swings did we replace? Is it 7?
6.
6. Okay, so there are
Well,
6.
6
Yeah.
regular seats and 6 baby seats.
And 6 baby seats, right? So there's new seats out there, which is great. Stacy Park Pond had a big repair done to its water supply line, thanks to Commissioner Person, who's really been doing an amazing job out there. And we actually had a call from someone. We had a call from someone today that just to say how much they loved the pond and it was looking the best it ever has, as good as when it was first installed. And I believe that was the daughter of Mike Gartenberg, who the pond was who was named for. So that was great. So congratulations, Jim. There's an ADA compliant drinking fountain going in via grant at Irvside Park. There was a CDBG funding, which is a community developed block grant, which helps fund ADA improvements and other things around the city. And the Public Works Department applied for that grant, and there were improvements made out there on the sidewalks a year ago, so that you can now walk around there completely accessibly with a level surface, and it's wide enough. There was some money left over from that, so very quickly, Bruce McGregor, the Public Works Director, and Dawn, the Assistant Park Director, got together and were able to get a drinking fountain ordered, and it's being installed right now. So you can go out and see it. It's in the ground. It's not usable yet. The concrete's still drying, but that's very exciting. And then Irvside and Villa, we're going to be doing some electrical repairs to the electrical panels out there, the ground fault, the GFI plugs out there for the pavilions need to be redone. Then in personnel update, we are very excited to say that we are in second round of interviews for recreation coordinator. We had a phenomenal response this year, the best we've ever seen with our recruitment. We had, I have to go back to Dawn again. What was our count, our final count?
54.
54 applicants, and not just 54 applicants, but we had 54 qualified applicants, which was phenomenal. So we redid our big resume review, and we had a first round. The first round, 3 have advanced to the second round. We had, that was the first candidate was this morning. So in the second round, they're doing an oral interview, but then they also have a practical that they completed as well. So we save a writing sample. So we're doing our second candidate tomorrow and our third on Monday. So we're very excited about that. And hopefully they will be starting in June. Then we also have the exciting news that we have been allocated a new full-time position in the Parks and Recreation Department. And this is a limited equipment operator. Right now we have a horticulturalist, and we have an equipment operator, and then we have an equipment operator 2. And those positions, the job titles and descriptions are the same as the people that work in public works. So that's the new, when the city redid their job descriptions a couple of years ago, those are the new names. However, we have people that are in those jobs that have been there for over 30 years in some cases. So we still call them by the old names. So Leonard is our park crew leader. He's our equipment operator 2. And then Merle is the equipment operator. And now we have this new position that's full-time, and we're very excited. That position is now open. We're gonna keep it open for 3 weeks. We anticipate it may be a little bit of a struggle to fill that position. We understand cities around us are really having a hard time to fill these park positions, but we're optimistic. So that's very exciting to be able to add another full-time position to the park crew. And that's the director's update.
A couple of questions. One,
Sure.
on the drinking fountains.
Yes.
I haven't seen anything from CDC. Are they all open again? Is that something?
Yes, drinking fountains are allowed to be open. So the guys are going to be, so Leonard and Merle are going to be reopening our park drinking fountains. They actually have to reassemble them. We take them all apart winter, and it takes a little time to put them back. There's always parts that have to be replaced. The drinking fountain in the community center is already open.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Other questions of Beverly? Okay, Councilman Waldman, do you have a report from the council?
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Couple things that I'll share with you, and I'll kind of go a little bit backwards here because your last meeting was before our second meeting in the city council on April 27th. So on May 18th, the city council held a special meeting to again continue to go over the budget and city council goals. And of course, we began that workshop on those 2 topics at our normal workshop session on May 4th. On April 27th, the city council had its second meeting of the month, and that is the time when the election results are certified and there's the changing of the guard. Sydney Clark is your mayor, and Maxine Weil is your pro tem for the year. Also, what occurred at that April 27th meeting was bear with me here, an amendment to the Gateway TIF redevelopment plan. A change was made to allow residential, and we had to deal with our modification of the Second Amendment of the contract and agreement between the city and the developer. We also authorized to enter an agreement with TWM Engineering and Geospatial Services for surveying services in conjunction with the Parks Master Plan improvement. And that was pretty much the bulk of the city council meeting on the 27th. Next is everybody's holiday. Not much more to report after that. The mayor will begin coffees with the mayor, I understand, in June. And with that, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer any. And before I get away, we'd just like to wish everybody a happy, healthy Memorial Day holiday, even though I know it's going to be on May 31st.
What was the TIF approved?
Yes,
TIF modification was approved.
yes, yes, they were. By the TIF commission and then adopted by the city council.
And is there any update on the apartments that north of CVS?
The Opus project,
Okay, is that, okay,
yeah, there's continued conversation and design looks and modifications going between the city and Opus. There have been some issues with regard to the right of way for entry into the project. And the city and the developer are working together to resolve those traffic access connection issues. And before the
Okay.
project is finally approved, there will be expectations to deal with that connection of getting into the project. We're also still continuing to take the names. To take information from those homeowners that have concerns about the project. And the developer's been very open-minded with some levels of modification.
okay. Any other questions of Councilperson Baldwin?
Yeah, Jim, if you don't mind. And this is coming up, I see on the next agenda when we start talking about mosquito control methods. At our last meeting, we had talked about possibly the city asking to be exempt, or the process of that of being exempt from fogging and spraying for mosquitoes. Do you have any information on that, Missy, or any thoughts on that?
That's really funny because I sent Maxine the last Vexer agreement that we made on mosquito stuff. I believe that was in 2019. I didn't keep it for myself. I forwarded it to her and said, hey, here's our history of the latest time that we've sat there and we've dealt with the contract. So all I know right now is the contract is a 5-year contract. And, if the city wants to consider the environmental presentations of not spraying, that's a conversation to be had.
Yes, so if I might interject that Jean Ponzi is here this evening to talk about mosquito control. And then when she's finished, I did pull the billing records so you can see what's being done around the city, because it's not just fogging, there's also larvicide controls and other things. So I have that if you're interested afterwards.
Okay. Other questions of Councilperson Baldwin? Okay, Beverly, would you introduce our guest and bring her forward?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So I am going to be promoting Jean Ponzi to panelist. And make sure I do this correctly. There we go. So Jean, you should be able to turn on your mic and your screen. So I'm very, very pleased to introduce Jean Ponzi. She is with the Missouri Botanical Garden. And Jean, I always tend to mix up your name, but you are the green management, no, wrong.
Green Resources Manager is my.
That's it.
Or
Green.
sometimes green cheese. I can see that I have an audio connection. I don't have a video connection, and I do have a brief PowerPoint to show you. Is it possible to I haven't seen anything that promotes me further than audio connection.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either because I was able to put the last person in. I'm looking for that. I apologize.
Well, from what I see is all panelists can share. Who can share?
Right, but I'm not, it's not allowing me to promote Jean to panelist. Oh, got it. Here we go. Okay, so you should be rejoining Jean. There you go. Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Aha. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Beverly, and thank you, commissioners and councilperson, for the opportunity to address you here tonight. I have a brief PowerPoint about the ecologic of mosquito control. I do work at the Missouri Botanical Garden. My division of the garden is the Earth Waste Center. We're the sustainability division of the garden. And this is subject matter that I have been researching and educating about and advocating for since about 2016. It is an element of the initiative that the garden leads for our region called Biodiverse City, St. Louis. So it dovetails, I hope you will agree, with Olivet's efforts and intentions to boost biodiversity in your parks. Trent's project to put bat houses in parks is a really good one that adds to biodiversity. It adds to human beings feeling comfortable around critters that some of us have biases against or fears about. And I haven't been into Olivet's Park for a while, but my best friends lived off Old Bonham and raised their children in Olivet. So spent very many happy years off of Old Bonham in your community. So the ecological connection, that's the really, really big one here. Ecology is all about relationships in place and understanding the impacts of the decisions that we make. One of the major movements in our community is the pollinator gardening movement. This is off the charts in popularity. St. Louis has been recognized as a national leader in native plant landscaping, prompted especially by people's love of and desire to support pollinators. That recognition comes from a man named Doug Tallamy. He's an entomologist with the University of Delaware, and he's a rock star in his field and in his capacity to articulate why native plants are important and why bugs are important to humans. Bugs are actually important to humans. So in and around our communities, we are seeing these kind of tiny little garden spaces all the way up to massive entire property conversions to native plant landscapes like the front of the Donald Danforth Plant Sciences Center that you see there. People love doing this and really get very passionate about it, and then get equally passionate about bug spray. So how to communicate in ways that will allay the fears of people who are justifiably concerned about mosquito-borne diseases and be accurate with the facts. Because one hard fact is that bug fogging, aerial chemicals sprayed, kills bugs, period. The chemicals do not differentiate between types of insect species. There are some, the larvicide, for example, that is used in treating standing water, known areas of standing water, that is specific to insects in the family that mosquitoes are in, which is Diptera, the fly family. And the chemicals that are used in insect fogging are much less pernicious and toxic than they used to be when some of us were little kids and would run around the street behind the fogging truck. However, the fact is, bug fogging kills bugs. And if you're gardening for pollinators, then you want to really be sensible and careful and strategic about how you control your pests. And that's not to diss the pest control companies, because they are really valuable. If you have an infestation of brown recluse spiders or termites or carpenter ants or things like that. But we have such a love affair with chemical magic in our society, and we want to just call somebody and have somebody take care of it. I have had that experience and that reaction myself. I'm not proud of it, but it's something that we've kind of grown up with, and it's very important for us to relearn. So why don't we just get rid of them all? Mosquitoes are an important part of the food chain. They are an important part of the circle of life. They are they're food for bats. They're a major source of food for bats. Dragonflies are their #1 predator. Birds eat them. They are actually pollinators themselves. Some species are pollinators of plants. And the really, really important thing to understand is the very limited number of kinds of mosquitoes that actually even take a blood meal from humans. Most of them prey on snakes, birds, amphibians, some mammals. Most of the kinds of mosquitoes on the plants have nothing to do with us. That is not their nature. Out of over 3,000, some scientists say 3,500 species, unique species of mosquitoes on Earth, there are just a sliver in these 3 genera, these 3 classifications of mosquitoes, Culex, Aedes, and Anopheles, that carry diseases of concern to humans. The Anopheles mosquitoes carry malaria, which is a major problem in tropical areas in Central America, South America, and Africa. And then the ones that are of concern to us, when these mosquitoes are prevalent in our area, are species in the Culex and the Aedes families. And so knowing what kind of mosquito you have is really important to be able to calibrate the degree of response. There's one thing that they all have in common. What do you know about the mosquito in the picture on the upper left, ladies and gentlemen?
If you're showing something,
Oh, we don't
You're-
see it, us, Jean. I'm so sorry.
you're not.
You can't see the screen?
No, ma'am. No,
Oh my goodness.
it's okay.
What's happening here? Can you? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
It's okay. There's a green button up there that says
Oh
share.
my gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't do that. I didn't turn that on.
It's okay.
How many times have I given a Zoom
There we go.
presentation?
Okay.
Okay, so
You got it.
there we go. All right, sorry. Ecologic. This is all about ecologic. Control the pests and protect the pollinators, because people are gardening for pollinators and they love this stuff. I just drove by Donald Danforth the other day on the way home from taking some friends to the airport, and the same plant is blooming there that is blooming in my yard, blue false indigo. I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my slide about the chemical that we want to call somebody to take care of the problem for us. But bug fogging kills bugs, period. Hard, fast fact. Then, said all this, they're part of the food chain, part of the circle of life. And yes, they are a pest, no doubt about it. So here we go. Mosquito in the upper left-hand corner picture. What do you know about that insect?
It bites.
It's a female mosquito. Only females bite. Females take a blood meal to develop the protein needed to lay eggs. That's what's happening biologically in the insect's life cycle. So one of my favorite punchlines is this is one of the great places in nature where the guys are really not wrong. Thank you for laughing at that. Not everyone does. The other thing that all mosquito species have in common is the image in the upper right. They all breed in standing or stagnant water. Mosquitoes cannot reproduce. They cannot complete their life cycle in moving water. So for example, a person who has a pond in their yard that has a pump and a water feature, or even has a little burble, that is enough movement in the water to prevent mosquito development. It actually will not attract a gravid female mosquito to lay her eggs in that water. But we have sources of standing water all over our places. The Frisbee in the backyard that the dog left out there that's upturned that has water in it. A bucket lid with little tiny indentations. The saucers under the plants on our patios in the summer. Pool covers, gutters that are not cleaned. All of those are places that hold standing water, and they are mosquito breeding situations. So understanding that and controlling that as much as we can. Sometimes it's very hard to do that, or even working with our neighbors to do that. That's an important part of mosquito education. And we have a blog, we put a blog post that I wrote on the Gardens website a couple years ago. I want to update it because I've put a few more things forward as more key steps in that. So probably in June that will get updated. Here we go. Here's looking at the types of insects again. This is where the County Department of Public Health, the City Department of Public Health, entomologists will look in detail at what kind of insect we have, because these are the 3 genera that I mentioned, Culex, Aedes, and Anopheles. Couple of species in each of these genera carry diseases of concern to humans. And the rest of the 3,500 species of mosquitoes on Earth, not. They may be pests, they may bite us. What do we do about that? Well, put the chemical around ourselves, use a good personal insect repellent, put out a fan when you're having a picnic, because they're small, weak little insects. They can't fight a breeze, and you will be cooler when you have a fan out. These are some of the things that will be more forward even than controlling standing water in that updated blog post. So when you look at the kind of mosquito that you have, this, by the way, entomologists at Tyson Research Center think, and I would have to agree, this is a beautiful mosquito. This is an extraordinarily easy mosquito to spot. It is in our area. It's not native to our area. It's one of 2 Aedes species that carry chikungunya, Zika virus, very, very serious dengue fever. We want to be aware when these mosquitoes are in our area, and that presence causes a ramp up of treatment. You want to know which species is biting when. In 2000, a couple years ago, 2019, we had a really wet spring, and we had a huge uptick in what are called floodwater mosquitoes, Culex vexans, vicious biters. The old thing about they bite at dawn and dusk. Culex vexans bite all day, and it hurts. And those are mosquitoes that prompted many people to want more chemical control. But our county public health department, our public health agencies will not apply chemical controls when those kinds of mosquitoes are present, because those are nuisance mosquitoes. They are not disease vectors. That's when you want to educate people to use a good mosquito repellent and use fans and wear light colored loose clothing and, that kind of stuff. And also, that's when people tend to call the pest control companies. So understanding what kind of mosquito is where, that's an important thing. Here's what the public health agencies do. This is the number one thing we expect, and I applaud you for considering ceasing the practice of fogging on a routine basis. Brentwood, Collinsville, and Edwardsville have all ceased fogging. I know that Brentwood maintains its contract with St. Louis County Department of Public Health to provide the other services that their vector control department does. The city of St. Louis only fogs when there is a complaint followed up by a reported incidence of the kind of mosquito that carries diseases. So this is really, every public health agency knows this is the least effective thing that you can do, because you can drive a fogging truck at 6 p.m. on a Thursday night, and if you have people with little puddles of standing water, 7 a.m. Friday morning, you're going to have a whole new generation of mosquitoes hatching out. Only kills adult insects, does nothing to interrupt breeding, and kills all of the insects that the chemical contacts. So it's like blowing up an atom bomb to stop a traffic clog. It just really doesn't make sense. But we have a very major romance with this kind of stuff. And this is where Missouri Botanical Garden, Mosquito Botanical Garden can be a good voice, a credible voice for communities to refer to in your communication about the decision that you make if you decide to cease fogging on a regular basis. The other things that your health department will do, and Beverly, you mentioned this, surveillance. They put out mosquito traps. These are things that female mosquitoes will fly into. They have standing water, they're smelly, they're exactly what a female mosquito is looking for to lay eggs so that those insects can reach maturity. Then you come and check the traps. The mosquitoes do not reach maturity because of the construction of the traps, but this is really essential to know, do we have mosquitoes in our area that are carrying diseases? You take them into the lab and somebody actually looks at all these tiny little shrivelly mosquito bodies and mosquito eggs under microscopes. That's critical because it's like identifying the bacteria that you have and what, should you use an antibiotic to fight that bacteria, or should you do something else? We need to treat the situation specifically. And this kind of data, this kind of expertise is very strong within St. Louis County Department of Public Health. And there's very good cooperation between the city and county health departments. And SLU, St. Louis U, is partnering with both departments this year to research some better methods of educating the public and doing this kind of tracking. And then this is the other really effective thing that individuals can do and that public health agencies can do, and that is apply larvicide. It comes in briquettes. You can break it up. We can buy it. It's called mosquito dunks or mosquito bits, and the mosquito bits are like little nurdles. They come in a shaker, like a Parmesan cheese shaker. You broadcast those out. They are pellets of BTI, Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis. That is a biological larvicide. It exists in spores in soil, and it is only toxic to insects in the fly family. Flies get it too. Diptera. It is not toxic to bees or other kinds of insects, other species of insects, not toxic to fish or birds or amphibians. And when you put this stuff in standing water, it changes the pH of the water. And what happens is the developing insect cannot eat and it starves. I like to say its guts explode, but actually that's hyperbole. And public health agencies will only do this on public property. That's another thing to be aware of. In your parks, where there are streams running through that tend to run dry and have just a little bit of water in to become stagnant, that's the kind of place that surveillance would take place and that larviciding would take place. Individuals can do this at our homes too, in rain barrels, in pool covers, in any place where standing water is a problem.
Gene, where would you buy something like that?
The briquettes, what you just saw there, those are commercially available, and they would probably be available through like a pest control supply company. They're that particular source that you saw, these larger briquettes, they are a quantity and a concentration that are typically only available to professionals. But the little ones, the mosquito dunks, you can get those at any home improvement store, in the pest control, any hardware store. They're called mosquito dunks, and they look like little gray donuts. BTI.
You had a picture of one, Gene, in that other slide.
I did, yes. I can go back to that if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
that's
it is.
it. There it
Okay.
is. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
It's harder to find the bits, but the bits are really good to broadcast into things like corrugated drain pipes, or you can even broadcast the bits onto soggy, low-lying ground on your property. But the other important things to do are to educate people and encourage them to find standing water and dump it. Turn the saucers over under your plants in the summer, unless you're going to be away on vacation. Use a good fan. You'll feel cooler and nicer, and mosquitoes will not be able to land on you. And then the US EPA has significantly expanded the number of active ingredients that it recommends for mosquito repellents. Used to only recommend 3: DEET, oil of lemon eucalyptus, and something called IR 3535. That's mostly in products made in Europe. Now there are other products that have active ingredients that are plant-based, catnip oil, citronella, and there's another one that's derived from grass kind of stuff. Not cloying, can be used on small children, but the thing is with insect repellents, how they work is they mask the aura of carbon dioxide that we respire through our skin. Mosquitoes, ticks, chiggers are all attracted by carbon dioxide. And when you use a good mosquito repellent that works well for your body chemistry, you literally become invisible to those insects. DEET is the big guns. That was developed by the US Army in World War II to protect troops fighting in the Pacific Theater. And that was the standard for many, many years. But there are plant-based repellents that people might feel more comfortable about using. I do, but you want to use one that works with your body chemistry. So where are they available in Olivet? Where are they available in our community? This is the kind of thing that puts back into our hands control of pests and control of our own health in relationship to mosquitoes, which are a reality, no doubt about it. Most of them are not causing diseases. Most of them are just pests, right? Don't keep them as pets. So for Olivet to consider, in partnership with St. Louis County Public Health, I am confident that they will be willing to, is that who you contract with, Beverly, for your mosquito services?
Yes, it is. Yes.
That they will be willing to review and modify your contract. They're there to fulfill the demands and the expectations of the public that they serve. And when leaders in an individual community make a decision that you're going to dial down those demands and educate your residents about other more ecological, sensible options, then the other kinds of things, the other kinds of services, surveillance, analysis, and larvicide, those will continue to be provided, and a community can readily opt out of fogging. Now, that said, if we had an uptick of mosquito-borne diseases in the St. Louis area that were serious diseases, if we were having many cases of West Nile virus, or if, as in Florida in 2016, Zika virus all of a sudden was an uptick, then all bets would be off. And then again, the big guns would come out, because public health typically trumps bug health. And when you're talking about a disease like Zika virus that has terrible effects like microencephaly, that birth defect, and it's also transmitted from human to human, you just cannot mess around with diseases like that. These are serious diseases, and we can protect ourselves in sensible, locally appropriate, right around our personal aura ways, and have the pollinators that are really also important to our ecological health. So I think that's it. I am happy to speak on this in any community at any time. I feel very strongly that it's important not to diss the pest control companies, because they do provide important services, but to encourage people to understand the results of choosing some of those pest control companies on your own property, on the community that you live in, and on your neighborhood. If there are people gardening for pollinators, or there are hobby beekeepers in your neighborhood, mosquitoes don't, boundary lines mean nothing to them, or to fogging chemicals. We have a Green Resources Information Service at the garden. We take questions at any time about anything having to do with sustainable living. As the Green Resources Manager, I am the first line of answer for those. And I look forward to having an updated version of that blog. There actually is an article in this month's issue of the Gateway Gardener that was requested by the organization Wild Ones, a native plant advocacy organization. That's it from me. Do you have questions?
Yeah, Jean, maybe this is also for Beverly. Is it possible to get a copy of your presentation, of your slideshow?
Yeah, I can send that to you, Beverly. And
Okay.
when the blog, a lot of that stuff is in the blog, and when it's updated, all of that will be in there. And then you can just link to it, or you can share it, or we'll put it out as a fact sheet. But yes, I'm happy to share that with you, Beverly.
Okay, great. And I'll send it to you, Ed. No problem.
Thank you. And I have another follow-up question while I have you here. Take advantage. If only one house on a block refuses to be fogged and everyone else is still being fogged, is it still effective to ask? I don't really know how wide ranging the fogging is. Is there any benefit to saying no if everyone else is still, saying yes?
That's a really hard situation for a person to get into, Ed, because that person then is standing against their neighbors and their beliefs. And, a campaign of educating people kind of about the whole picture as opposed to just to fog or not to fog, I think is really essential. We've been told for decades that we should use these heavy duty chemical products and that we should put that responsibility in the hands of our public health agencies who know that's not the most effective thing, but they are charged with protecting our health. So that one piece of property that chooses not to fog, probably they're not going to have much in the way of insect life on their property.
Thank you.
And in follow-up to that, if we would opt to recommend to our city council that we don't fog around our parks, does that do any good, or is it pretty much has to be sort of a whole municipality kind of?
Well, fogging is geographically somewhat specific. It's not as specific as a personal insect repellent or larviciding is. I can't remember off the top of my head how far that chemical will travel. And the time of day that fogging occurs also matters. I had an interaction with the city of Brentwood Public Works Commission a couple of years ago, and they had changed their fogging time from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. and felt that that was better. And actually it was almost totally ineffective because there's no insects active then, but insects that are roosting will be affected by that chemical spray. So, you know, they'll just croak in their sleep. The decision to fog, you know, in your parks, if you have park area that is primarily turf, you're not going to have much insect life there because turf doesn't support any biodiversity. It's good for running around on. If you have park area that has been planted with native plants, that would be the area that I would keep very, very clear of any kind of aerial insecticide. It's called adulticide because what that does is it kills the adult flying insects. If you are having a big public event in a park, and also I am not absolutely clear at how long the effects are of that fogging. As I said, if there's mosquito breeding near an area that was fogged, you could have, you know, fog the night before a big festival in one of your parks, and the next morning you'd have more mosquitoes hatching out because it doesn't interrupt breeding. Those two things are really important to understand. So you're looking at a much more detailed, much more fine points of decision-making of deciding to use aerial insecticide, adulticide, fogging, than just run the trucks. Does that help?
Yeah.
I think it might be really helpful for me to show you how much fogging actually happens in all of that, because it's a lot smaller than you might think. So I will share my screen with you.
I'm going to say the takeaway is from your presentation, Jean, is we get our water retention issues addressed and or treat those areas with the types of products you've indicated.
Larvicide,
If I could follow up and just make sure I heard what I thought I heard. You said fogging does not disrupt the breeding process.
That is
It
correct.
just kills the bugs that's all around alive doing what they're doing.
Right.
Okay.
Mosquitoes are aquatic when they are eggs, larvae, and pupa. And when they hatch out as adults, they become airborne. So fogging only affects insects in their adult stages. Butterflies are adults too. When they're in their larval stages, they are not airborne, they're terrestrial. So you are not it does nothing to interrupt the breeding cycle, nothing. You may have a few fewer female mosquitoes to lay eggs the next day, but you also will not have butterflies, moths, dragonflies, anything else that might be flying around when that chemical is in their vicinity.
So let me show you this very quickly. So on the left is the Excel spreadsheet. I'll try and zoom in a little bit. Can you see? You probably can't see that.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
Okay, good. So we only had in the last year, this is this one here, we had 6 hours of fogging. So it was, once I got this, it was quite a bit less than I thought. So the trucks came out in July, August, and September. And you can see 2.5 hours, 0.5 hours, and 3 hours. And then the list below, this is total hours of applications of larvicide. So this is when the technicians came out and actually put out the pellets and different traps. So you can see there was 20 hours of that. And then this is the contract we have with the county is for all vectors. So then a resident in the last year in August reported seeing some rats a couple nights in a row on their front porch. And so the technician came out and found that actually they were Norway rats, which are actually pretty serious. So they were advised on how to control them. And then this is the cost that the city pays on an annual basis, which is actually, it's a lot lower than I thought too. So it's about $1,800 is what we paid in the last fiscal year. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at here.
Beverly, where was larviciding or surveillance included in all that? Is that separately billed or does that just kind of come with the package?
That I believe it just comes with the package because you can see here, oops, here we go. I'll show you here. You can see here that here's the spraying. They call it spraying, even though it's the largest side. But so I think I have to go back to see. Do you see how one?
I see. Yeah, I see the 20 hours of the 6
Yeah,
hours.
the 6 hours at 92, that's the fogging. The 20 hours at 65, that's the larvicide. So I don't know the locations that the larvicide was put. I have a call to find out, but Bruce McGregor, the Public Works Director, gave me these figures because this is how we pay the bill. So that's how you really get it. So this is a nice breakdown for us to really understand what's going on. So I have to say I was surprised that I thought it was a lot more frequently than once a month during the summer.
So when you talk about in Indian Meadows, where we've got the parts of the park that are, we've got the problems with the drainage and so forth. Does the city staff at all go into those areas and do any?
We don't do, the city staff does not do the larvicide. That is what is done by the county. Now, if that's something that we wanted to do, we could absolutely have the county start doing it. For us to do it, it's not as cost effective. We're not able to buy these products at that commercial rate. We'd have to go to Home Depot and get those red packages. So it really is beneficial for us to have the county do it.
So do we know if those are the areas that they may have already been doing?
We don't know. That's why I have a call into the county to see if they can give us kind of a map of where they've been hitting with the larvicide. And I did not know that it could only be done on public property. So that's really interesting. Now I'm wondering, now I really want to know where have they been putting it? So maybe they are putting it in the parks and I don't know, because this is managed, in the Public Works Department.
So
Hey,
can I ask
Beverly?
another question? Oh,
No, go ahead.
no, my question is, so when they called about the rats, that's private property, but the city was billed for it?
Well, yes, because we are the vector control. So that's vector control. The county did not treat those rats. They came out and identified them and then gave recommendations to the resident. They did not take any action, but they were an educational outreach.
So does that occur anytime that someone will call the county? Say for
No.
instance? Okay.
No, because you can see that's the annual bill and you can see there's only one type like that. I think it really depends on what the vector is that they're concerned about.
Okay.
So when it's a normal rat as opposed to just, a vole or a mouse or something, it's a different level. It's a different level of concern.
Okay.
So if we buy into this whole thing of saying we don't need to do adulticide and all of this kind of thing, what would be our next steps?
Can I ask a question before we go there?
Sure.
So my question is, do we know if 2020 was more or less than 2019? Because I know there was a bigger concern about West Nile. So do we have any idea if that was normal, above, or below what would be previous?
Well, I can pull previous years. I don't know off the top of my head. I just pulled last year's so that we could have a baseline, but I can find out.
Because I think it was higher last year than it had been in the past, which means it's even less previous. I'd be curious what the actuality was.
So Gene, what's your experience in terms of what happened in the last couple of years, sort of region-wide?
I don't know what the statistics were for West Nile last year. And the big concern, of course, was COVID-19. And there were there were not public gatherings in the same way. So I think and also at St. Louis County Department of Health, the attention shifted as much as it could possibly shift to contact tracing and to COVID maintenance. Jim Sayers is the guy who's the head of vector control, and he
Yes.
was on the job last year. He's a great guy. He really knows his stuff. That guy is a public servant. So I don't really know. I can't speak to that. I will say, though, that I speak from personal experience about West Nile virus. A member of my family had it in 2007, probably got it from a mosquito bite in our yard, lived, first of all, recovered from having both legs paralyzed, and will take seizure control medicine for the rest of that person's life. These are not diseases you want to mess around with, but they're not lurking under every bug's wing. That's the thing to understand. And surveillance tools are getting better.
To that point, Gene, are there easy surveillance tools for the homeowner to assess their own yards?
Right now, the best one would be the app iNaturalist, which is it's the gold standard for bio blitzes. And we just had the region, the city nature challenge and stuff like that. Comes from the California Academy of Sciences. You have to take a picture of the bug, and you have to get a fairly good picture of the bug, which is not necessarily easy. But that's one way to identify it. There is some app-based technology in development that is being geared toward working with public health agencies to augment their capability through citizen or community science engagement, but we're not there yet, and we're not there quite yet.
Thank you.
And with the 80s albopictus, the one that I showed you that the WashU entomologist says is a beautiful mosquito with the black and white stripy legs, you can't miss that one. But the one that carries West Nile is a little brown nondescript mosquito that is a first cousin to the kind we had in 2019, the floodwater mosquitoes that don't carry diseases but are really, really major biters. So when you get down to that kind of a fine grain, again, the first best line of defense is to use a really good mosquito repellent that works for your body chemistry, and use it when you go outside. People put sunscreen on now. It is second nature. Mosquito repellent works. And yeah, you might have to apply it again. And in my experience, people kind of get a charge out of understanding how it works by masking that aura of carbon dioxide that we are all giving off.
Gene, I have another question. So I've heard that there are other plants that you can use in your yard. I've heard about marigolds and lavender that also act as natural bug repellents. Do those work against mosquitoes as well?
Well, if you think about, Ms. Keisha, if you think about how mosquitoes are attracted, they're looking for carbon dioxide, which attracts the female in to take a blood meal from some mammal that is breathing. And highly scented plants, like I mentioned, catnip oil is an active ingredient. Catnip is in the mint family. All of those plants are very, very highly scented. And those substances in a mosquito spray will work on your skin, but the plant stays put and you're moving around. So planting plants is not necessarily going to help. However, if you have soggy places in your yard, or when you have drainage problems on public property, if people are using rainscaping techniques like rain gardens or bioswales or those kinds of things, which is another whole body of resources that we have housed on the Missouri Botanical Garden website. That helps to remediate the standing water by getting it to percolate down into the ground. And when you have native plants around an installation like that, they tend to attract mosquito predators like dragonflies.
Mhm.
I hope that was helpful.
Are there other questions?
Does this just make you feel a lot nicer about mosquitoes?
So,
I keep thinking, I think I've seen a black and white mosquito at my house, and so now I'm really concerned.
wow. So Gene, I do have a question. It comes back from my childhood,
Yes, ma'am.
and maybe you'll remember this, and if you all might laugh, but remember this too. There was an Avon product.
Skin so soft.
Thank you. When we were kids, that is what they, when we were going to play in the woods, whatever, that's what they told us to put on to keep them away. Now you've just described the smelly stuff that we should wear. So since you remember that, is that a useful repellent, or was that, false beliefs of our parents?
For some people, apparently it is. I have a very good friend who lives in Leesburg, Missouri, on a rural area, and they have ticks and chiggers. They don't have as many mosquitoes, but ticks and chiggers and mosquitoes are all attracted by carbon dioxide respiring from our skin. And she uses Skin So Soft. That is her one. She swears by it. I don't know what the active ingredient is. US EPA would tell you that there is no active ingredient in Skin So Soft that they consider a legitimate mosquito repellent. But if it works for you, I've heard people that like spritz vinegar on their skin and it works for them. Everybody's body chemistry is different, and it changes. It can change when you go through pregnancy. It can change as you age. So in the same way that you might modify your exercise routine, or you might modify your diet or your wardrobe choices, changing a mosquito repellent, and if it's not working, try another one.
Okay, any more questions? Well, Jean, thank you so much for your presentation, and we will take under advisement next steps and in consultation with the council and so forth, and we'll go from there. But thank you very, very much.
You are most welcome. If I can be of further service to you, please don't hesitate to call on me. And one of the things that I'm very happy to do is to communicate in my work around the region about communities that have decided not to have regular fogging and why. And you can always opt back into it.
Okay, great.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time this
Thank you,
evening.
Jean.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to buzz off.
Okay. Oh.
You've been waiting for that one for all this time. Yeah.
I haven't said it yet today. Thanks.
Okay. Well, that was a great presentation. I'm not sure there's any specific action, and I don't know where we go in terms of trying to implement some things or what. So what would be the next steps?
Hey, Jen, can I ask a quick question? I wanted to understand who requests the fogging. How is it, does the city request the fogging? Do private residents request? I was trying to figure out that part.
The city requests it. The city's in a 5-year contract with the county to do it. A private resident can't have the county come and fog them if the city doesn't have the contract with them, because they don't bill individual residents for it.
Okay. But if we have the contract as a private resident of Olivet, can someone then request it?
No, they can request not to get sprayed, but what they
Okay.
do, they come around on a schedule. And I think Sue's question was good, is for me to pull the data from previous years to see if last year was an anomaly or if it was regular
Mhm.
or what.
And Beverly, I think if I recall, I have a family member that's in this industry and deals with laboratories that work with dengue fever and Zika, which is why I know a little bit about this. If I recall, the county did a lot of the fogging automatically because the levels were going up and they were monitoring the area, because they can monitor the water and determine what's going on. And they started seeing an uptake in West Nile, which is why I think they did some of it automatically last summer.
Yeah, I don't know, but I can find out. I have a call into the gentleman that Jean referenced, Jim Sayer. So I will find out. I would like to bring information to you so you can make an informed decision. So that would be good to know. I know that the county does put up traps around the county. Just most county health do. They put up traps around to see what they find, and not just for mosquitoes, for fruit flies and other things too.
Do you know whether there are any of those testing stations in any of the parks?
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen any. I'm unaware of them, but they could be there and I wouldn't know.
Okay.
To Jim's earlier question, I know we talked about this last time. It's like a next step is, basically what Jean said was education, and our next publication, if it's possible, to not only have the number to call, but also, the recommendations of what homeowners should be doing or can do, let me put it that way, to control it in their own yard. Maybe that information has already happened before and I missed it, or in previous years, but it might be worth putting something together, maybe with Jean's help with some of her slides. That seems to me to be the first steps before we could ever get to a point where we could, opt out of fogging, because I think there'd be possibly a lot of, rightfully so, concerns about, especially coming off of COVID. No one's really wanting, to say no to anything that's going to mitigate these kinds of diseases. So,
Right.
but I did notice from what you showed us, it was unfortunate, but 2 of those foggings happened right when all the, the second stage butterfly are hatching, right then, right there. It's like,
Right.
what? So there's got to be some sort of balance. And I don't know if 6 hours is a lot or not a lot at all.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know. It's a great suggestion about the newsletter, just telling people what to do in the summer. Unfortunately, the city newsletter, I just got the draft of it. So it's, and it's packed. So there isn't space in that, but the next one could certainly have it because mosquitoes are with us all summer. So this one's the June one. The next one that'll come out, I believe, is September.
Yeah.
But certainly, Beverly, they could post something, communications.
Could we not push something? Could we
on
not push
next door
something?
or whatever?
Well, why can't we push it within our own? I mean, is there not
Yeah.
something that could be pushed by Kiana
That's
just
what
to
I was
begin to
thinking.
warm people up?
Yeah. That's,
Well, I'll talk to Barb, because some of the stuff that's in there, I think has to be in there. So I'll find out. I'll find out.
No, wait, I'm not talking about changing the newsletter, Bev. I'm talking
Oh,
about
I
the
thought you were saying
electronic push.
I thought you said
No.
push it.
The
Oh.
the electronic pushes that she
Yes,
does.
we could, yes.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
could
yeah,
have
have
an
her
electric-
do it.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
soft,
yes.
soft education and bring it
Yes,
in. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes. And
Yeah.
because, we do so much on social media, we push it out
Right.
news because people want to know what to do when, I'm part of Ladue Community Connect on Facebook. And last year I was appalled at the number of people that were saying, who do I call to spray my yard? So, yeah, education is really important.
Yeah, I agree. I think September's a long way away to wait for this.
Yes, yes.
so. Are there other things does anybody else want to bite on this one? Okay, so let's move along to the next item, the rain gauge installation for U City. And I don't know if people have seen this, but U City is trying to do some things about the flooding. We all know about the problems of flooding along Olive and the problems that they've had or have had. And so they're putting in early warning systems. And they want to put in the park they want to put a rain gauge at Indian Meadows, which is the headwaters of the River de Pear, to help them get a better idea of what's going to happen down the road ahead of time. And so Beverly has talked to the Public Works folks and all of that. So could you fill us in a little bit more on that?
Sure. So I've put a picture up on the screen. So the rain gauge actually looks a little bit like the Power Pack actually looks a little bit like an iPhone. So the rain gauge is a cylinder. It sits on top of a pole. It sits on top of a regular light pole, and it collects rainfall totals. And they use that to model how fast the flow will pick up in the River de Pear as it flows from Olivet towards University City. So they have a network of these around in University City in their parks. And they have a stormwater commission, and they identified the Olivet as the next place they'd really like to gather some information. So Indian Meadows was the place that they selected, and they said, oh, we looked at your park, and it seems to be there's a big open area here and not much is going on. And I had to chuckle and say, well, wait a year, it's going to be activity central over there. So I think it's a great program they're doing. They will share the data with us if we're interested. It's a completely open data. They also will work with us to identify a location. I told them that, a lot of things have to happen. First of all, the Parks and Rec Commission has to weigh in on it. And then if you recommend it, then it goes up to the city council. The city council makes the determination. And then we enter an agreement with University City. They pay for it, so they'll pay for everything. But the thing that I'm really concerned about is I want to make sure that it's in a place in the park that isn't going to detract from these new amenities we're putting in there. And I'm very appreciative that they recognize that, and they're recommending this very low profile pole, because the one they put in at Fogarty Park looks like an old fashioned light pole, and it's really big, and it turned out it was really hard for them to put it in. So they are very happy to put a low profile one in for us. So I'm happy to answer any questions and see what you'd like to do.
Can they be installed on top of buildings?
They probably could be. I think it really, the installation location, I think there's a certain height. It's in the, actually, let me pull my report here. They need to be between 12 and 14 feet high. So potentially could go on top of a building. The most important thing is that solar, that is positioned correctly to use the solar power to run the gauge and run the Wi-Fi.
And I think also they want it as close to the River de Pear as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what comes to mind are the restrooms there. At
Yeah.
Indian Meadows.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. What the one consideration is they have to go up to it at a couple times a year. So if it is on the roof, it might be harder for them to get to it. But I will certainly suggest that to them and see if that's something that they could consider.
Or is there another light pole that it could be attached to?
We don't have any light poles in that park.
Gotcha. All right.
You could
Looking for any official action here, Beverly?
Yes, there's
Or-
in the report, I'll pull it up. There was a recommendation that, let me get it up for you.
The reading is approved, installing a rain gauge in Indian Meadows Park funded by University City in a mutually agreed upon location, and forward the request to the city council.
Mhm.
And do we need to do a formal move, or can we just simply?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I would,
One more question.
Sure.
Where does this thing fall in the landscape for our future plans? Is that area going to be untouched, or?
Yes, well, that's the,
Did you choose that?
the location has not been chosen, because what I'm saying, it has to be a mutually agreed upon location. And
Yeah.
it has to be looked at in consideration for the park amenities that are happening and the greenway coming through. So if it's something that that you send to the council and the council agrees, then we'll work with the landscape architects to cite it, and then we'll give 1 or 2 options to University City, and then they can pick the one that they think works the best.
How long is the installation? I mean, how
they
long
can-
does it need to be there?
Oh, this would be for a long time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this would be a long time. This would be permanent.
Okay, do I hear a motion? On the,
As presented by the Parks Director.
correct.
Yes.
Okay. Do
I
hear a
second it.
Second, okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
All opposed? No. Carries, and we will move this on to the council.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item. And this is a beginning of a process. And I know that there was an email that went out this afternoon about it. But we know that Prop C does not cover everything that was in the Parks Master Plan. And it's a starting point, or it's a continuing point, maybe is a better way to say it, that we're getting so involved with what we're doing in the next year or year and a half that we need to also be aware of looking out to the future. And the items that were in the master plan that are not included and funded through Prop C, we need to get some idea of where the commission is on those things by park. So that so planning can begin. And I think the horizon is a 10-year plan. So Don did a great job of putting together a spreadsheet of the items that aren't included at this point in what's being funded right now with the 16.5 million or whatever it is. That we'd like to get some idea and have a little discussion around it to kick that off. But then also we're going to come back to this over and over again because it's something that it's a living document.
Mhm.
And so as we move forward, we'll probably do work sessions on it, and we need to have spirited conversations about this as well.
Well, you may not. There seems to be a lot of agreement on a lot of items. So
Okay, so but as we look at it, and then some of the items will drop off the list because they're either no longer relevant or they've happened, and other ones will come up.
Mhm.
But I don't know, Bev, can you put up the spreadsheet in terms of
I
what?
think it's up. Can you all see it?
Let's see.
Did I share the right screen?
You got it.
Yeah, we see it.
I am so impressed with this document. You know, we use Google Docs all the time and things, but to have it, because I was trying to replicate the process where we always have the boards on the wall and everybody has their dots and they get to walk around and put their dots. And I thought, how am I going to do that on Zoom? This is just wonderful because everybody's in the same document. I mean, this really shows when these collaboration tools really work. This is a great application. So I'm very excited. And you can go back to it and you can change your vote too later. You're not going to do a vote tonight. So this is wonderful. You can still give it some more thought and you can still change your mind. So I'm just very impressed. I love it.
Jim, when do you want this completed by?
I would like it completed, if we could have it done in the next week, because what's happening now is we're working on the capital project. Every year, the capital project is updated. And we have not had a lot of park things in that capital project because we've been holding things off for the park master plan. We did have a new vehicle a couple of years ago. We've had some smaller things, but all of the big park projects were held until that park master plan was done. So this will be great. For a while, the Parks and Rec capital project didn't really have anything across the years. So I also will share with you, I'll share with you right now, the spreadsheet we have for things just within the Parks and Recreation Department. If I can find it, I have the tab open, but can I find it?
So are there questions that people have in terms of what some of these items are? I think we've talked about some of, okay. And
I don't have a question about what they are, but my question is more about making sure that some things we might care about don't get left off of the list. Are there opportunities for us to look at alternative funding for some of these things to make sure that they still happen, even if they don't happen out of the proposition funds?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, there's been a suggestion that from the city manager that this commission, the group that's working on the memorials, to also, or maybe another team would be better, but to start looking at seeking out grants. So we know there's the big municipal grant that in the county, and we have someone working on the grant for that right now. And we haven't 100% identified the project for that. We're leaning towards the splash pad at Warson Park, but there are other grants out there, and having a group of people that really understand what the projects are and understand the parks to help cast that wide net and identify those grants would be really helpful. So I think that is an excellent suggestion, that if there's people that are interested in that is a great role for the commission.
So in doing so, would we need to create a 501c3 that is for fundraising for the parks specifically?
Not
because we
necessarily
talked
for the
about-
grants. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying, because we had talked about that in terms of fundraising for the memorials. So how else, or what is the format in which we would do that?
That is something that the city council would have to approve, and the process to create a nonprofit, you need an attorney and an accountant to draft the bylaws and incorporate the agency and do the tax filing, and you have to establish a board. So it's fairly simple to set up nonprofits. The hard part is maintaining the board and the interest of the board and doing the annual reports with the finances. So, but it's relatively easy. So it would just take approval from the city council.
Okay.
And I think also rolling in the whole issue of the community grants and so forth. There are some things that I think that we can do without a foundation, but then there's other things that I think that's a good, an excellent process to follow.
Yes, absolutely. And to Keisha's point, I think it's really important that I love the fact that we have this document, because it keeps it front and center. Now, what I'm putting up over here, this is the internal operations CIP. So these are things that are, most of them are not part of the Park Master Plan. There are one or two on here that are, but these are the requests that we're putting in right now. But you can see here, this is how things are plotted out on the years. So I really want to take these projects and start plotting them in on this as well, because this gets incorporated into the huge CIP that the city approves every year. And we can put things out as far or as close as we want. So you'll see on here, tables and chairs. We know in 30 years, we're gonna have to replace the new ones that are coming. We also know we have to replace a vehicle in 23, 24. That's one of the city work trucks. We have in this year already, coming up, the one that's coming, we are going to be requesting a new gator. Our gator we figured out actually is over, now I can't remember the number of years. I want to say it might be over the 22 years. This is the reason it's not doing very well. In the Parks Department, we tend to keep our vehicles probably longer than we should. And then the following year, we're requesting a plow, because what we're trying to do in the Parks and Recreation Department that we recognized during the pandemic and with the new greenway coming is that we want to start clearing the trails after snow events. We don't do that right now. So right now, those of you that go walking in the park, you know it's very slushy and icy after snow events. We do the sidewalks in front of the parks, and we only started doing that a couple of years ago. So this is an enhanced service that we want to be able to offer to residents. And right now, we don't have a way to clear those pathways in the parks. So we're requesting this to replace our all-terrain vehicle, and it can actually have a plow on the front. And the first year we can rent it, and the second year we can buy it, so we can actually scrape it and spread the ice melt or sand. Sand is another thing we're looking at instead of ice melt, because it's a lot less damaging. So these are the types of things we're looking at. We're hoping to get a lift gate. We have the horticulturalist position works alone a lot, and having a lift gate to lift heavy things off up and down off the truck would be really beneficial for anyone working solo. And then this is the V plow we want to put on our current toolcat. So our toolcat is looks like a Bobcat, but it puts a lot of tools on it. And then we're requesting a shed for Stacy Park to keep a lot of the ball field things there, and the UTV itself could stay there and be staged, and then we don't have to try and get it there and tow it there during a storm. So these are the kinds of things we're looking at. Then I've put out here in 24, 25, that message board that we have in the park master plan and the wayfinding. We're slated to replace the message board out there. It's not included in the bond measure, and it's not listed on any of the park amenities. So I want to make sure that's not forgotten and that we're looking at that. And so that project entails replacing the message board and then re-landscaping that corner. You know, that's where that planter's falling down. So it needs electricity put back in there, and the irrigation system needs to be overhauled. So that cost there includes landscape architect. It includes fabricating that sign, the electricity, and the irrigation, as well as the plants. So I think it looks expensive, but it's doing a lot of components in there. And then we are getting ready to start taking down the cyclone fencing at Stacy, and that's going to be done in stages. We have to work with the with the city of St. Louis to do that. So it's not something I want to tackle in the next year. So that's definitely pushed out, but that'll be a slow process where we'll take down sections of the fence along Warson, and then we'll take down sections of the fence along O'Bonham and replace it with split rail fencing. So you see the cost in there to do that. Then that cost is just for the new fence. The fence that we're taking down, we are going to do some test panels to see if it's something we can do in-house. Otherwise, we may have to do another project to have a company come and take it down. We're really going to do some experimenting. We really don't know what it's going to take it down. So do you have any questions about these? These are operational CIPs separate from the park CIPs.
Is the 30 to 50,000, is that normally what we've done what's been in the CIP in the past?
If you look historically, it's not been as organized in the Parks and Recreation Department. When I started here, there were some CIPs identified that didn't really have a plan behind them. That's actually one of the things that spurred the Parks Master Plan. When I started, there was a plan to put in a sand volleyball pit at Stacy. But there was no documentation to say why the residents wanted it or what the research was done. And there were a couple other things. So that's kind of where I backed off that CIP to really figure out and have a plan. What do we need? What do we have and what do we need? So when you look at historically, you'll see other departments like police department, fire department, they have a much more regular purchasing. And then that's what we want to get Parks and Recreation on that same track. So that's why you'll see things way out here. We're really trying to identify when things have to be replaced.
Could you zoom in just a touch on that?
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Is that easier to see? I can.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Now, this isn't approved yet. This is what Dawn and I are working on right now. And this is part of the budget process. It goes to the finance director, it goes to the city manager. And then if it clears those hurdles, then it goes to the city council. So what you're seeing right now is raw. So we'll see what happens once the finance director looks at it and the city manager. And then there are backup documents for each of these that we have to write out and put photographs and really have a thoughtful process behind it. And you can see that on the city's website. The whole CIP plan is up there and you can take a look at it. The one that was modified last year. So it's a rolling document. It keeps going.
Yeah. One thing, go ahead.
I just wanted to question about an item that I don't see on here in the next several years. Is there still a need for a dedicated trailer for watering that the Parks has access to?
Well, that we're hoping not, because in the park schematic design, what we're putting in are quick couplers, so that we're really hoping that need for that trailer is going to diminish as those quick couplers come online, so that we'll be able to put up a sprinkler in a specific area and kind of reduce some of that burden with the trailer and with the water tank. The other issue we have with the trailer is that the size of trailer that's required to put the size of tank on it is astronomically expensive. So the trailer we have now, the hydraulic trailer we have now, the one that we're using actually is the most cost-effective one to use.
So then a follow-up question then, are you confident, are you happy with the amount of those couplers sites, given all of the wildlife gardens in the master plan and in different places that may not be as accessible or maybe more difficult? Do we have enough, do you think?
Yeah, so the plans, the schematic plans for the parks are still at the 25%. I don't see the water couplers yet. That'll come probably around the 50% design. So no, I'm not confident in that. We may still have to address that, and we may still have to do that. One thing I am hopeful of is that these native landscapes, once they're established, they will not need that regular water. They need that regular water for the first 2 to 3 years, is my understanding. So hopefully our need for it will diminish, but it is on our mind and we are trying to grapple with it. Dawn's done a lot of research, and we've also looked at other agencies and what they use to water too, to try and find out what is the best setup, what's forest relief using, what is the botanical garden, what are agencies that have to water a lot, what are they doing?
Thank you.
Other questions on this? Yeah, if people can fill that out. One question for Beverly, in column I, can you do a sum with?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yeah.
So that would be good, so we
Yeah.
can kind of see where we
Yeah.
stand with it.
And to clarify, I'll have Dawn do that.
Yes, okay.
Now, if it were my spreadsheet and I felt confident, but I don't.
So
One of you could do it in your sleep, but I cannot.
Can I ask another question? These items that we're voting on, these were the items that the public chose or that were part
Yes.
of the original plan, correct?
Yes, these are the ones from the original approved Parks Master Plan, correct.
Okay.
It's been added.
Okay, are there other questions? I'm trying to get back to my agenda here and I've lost it somewhere. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Does that, Beverly, does that provide you the feedback
It
that you
does,
need
yes.
at this point?
Yes, I'm very happy with this. Thank you everyone for using the form. And as if you encounter any trouble with it, let me know.
Okay, we'll move on to commissioner reports. In terms of the various work groups that we have, I will have to admit that while we've been involved in a lot of things over the last month, I don't know that we've done anything specifically formal, but on the volunteer side, I know Keisha and Ed and staff have been working very much. We're playing a game of catch up on volunteers and trying to figure it out because we've had just an outpouring of people that want to volunteer. We had a group a couple of weeks ago from MICDS. It all started with the Wash U group, environmental group, and there's one senior over there that is just really putting us in touch with everyone, and we've now been in touch with MICDS. While we were doing that, someone stopped by from a group at Horton Watkins, and this weekend, thanks to Ed, because unfortunately I can't help out, we've got a group from John Burroughs that's coming in and doing some work on the trail. So we're working on this, but the larger piece of what we're trying to do is get job descriptions for things that need to be done in the park, and staff has recently put together a listing of that, and we begin to get some things out there that people can volunteer for. And so that's where we're at. It just feels like I'm on a race, that we're on a race playing catch up. But that's what I have. If any of the other groups had an opportunity to meet during this time. And I think,
So one of the things I wanted to visit was the sports programs. And Don, could you kind of talk about for a minute where we are with that, and does it make sense to try to convene a working group on that just yet, et cetera? And Beverly as well, are we in a position to start looking at sports programs?
Well, sure, you can look at sports programs anytime. We have, we're bringing the new coordinator on hopefully in the next month, and Dawn is very motivated to improve our programs. We're excited to have leagues back, so we're looking at soccer. So sure, absolutely.
so I think, and again, it's like these long-term goals. These are not things that we get set up on, that we start and we go, but they will be ongoing. So what I'll try to do is bring those up at the meetings, and then we can kind of talk from there on it. I know that there's been some discussion about, I think we have one group that talking about long-term financing, which includes what Keisha was talking about with the foundation
Yeah.
kind of approach, as well as looking at memorials. And so I think that we will work with various groups within the city government in terms of what where that is as we move along, because I think it's important as we look at these 10-year these 10-year plans. Clearly, we can't run those out of the current budget. So we're going to have to look at alternative sources and figure out, and it's like fundraising. If you don't ask for it, you don't get it. So we need to get a plan and get in line and go from there. I think one of the things that caught my attention in the last month was, I don't know how many of you saw about Benson Hill going public. There's $1.5 billion over there that perhaps they have that are adjacent to some of our facilities. And so we might be able to look for them. If anybody knows anyone in Benson Hill, let Beverly know, so that we can tap in.
The owner built a home in Olivet, so we should know him.
So, yeah, and so if we can begin to cultivate those. I know the Taylors live in Clayton, and they did some pavilions and so forth there. So it seems to me that we need to begin to cultivate some of those resources to help us as we move forward.
Sure.
And so that's what we're, in terms of working on these things, the kinds of things, and sort of imagine in blue sky some of this stuff. And then, because we blue sky it, and then then Beverly brings me down to earth. And
No, you guys are the visionaries that you make.
yeah, so we need to,
Fantastic.
but the point is, we need to be visionaries in this and figure out how we can serve the citizens to the extent possible. Let's see.
Can I say one more thing? I think I think that is spot on, Jim, in terms of making sure that we are trying to address what was asked for. Because a lot of citizens who voted on these things, they haven't circled back, and they're not gonna really look at the full process of this whole thing. They're gonna come back to the end and say, well, I thought you said we were gonna have a dog park. And, because we couldn't provide all of the things that were on the list, then it's as if, we're not necessarily fulfilling what they thought, because they're not fully engaged in the long game. They were in the short game. So I think it's going to be important that we try to really address as many of the things that people voted on, by whatever means we have to do. They voted on the proposition, but they don't necessarily know that can't meet everything that they wanted. So as much as we can try to address what people asked for and voted to support, I think we need to try and do it.
Yeah, and part of our job is to interpret what we're doing.
Correct.
And I think circling back to maintain that trust.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because we'll spend more time defending on why we didn't get, X into whatever park than, being able to celebrate all of the work that we did do.
Yeah. And that kind of brings it to a reminder that next Tuesday at the council meeting is a project update from Katie Holt from Navigate Building Solutions. I hope you all can attend that meeting. We're at 100% document from, make sure I say the right term, construction documents. We received 100% of the construction documents for Warson and the community center. And we've spent the last couple of days combing through them with suggestions that are going back for those final documents, because we are on track to go to bid in June for Warson and the community center. And then the parks themselves are still in the schematic design phase. So we're really working on the surveying right now we've done the land surveying and the borders, the topography and all of that. The surveying that's being done now, Bruce McGregor is doing with an outside company, and they're doing the mapping of all the utilities, the sewers, the electrical. And as they map them, they're also being captured to put into the city's GIS system, which is pretty exciting. And that's the new GIS system that that's the city's working on now. We don't have it up and running yet, but it's coming. So that's very exciting.
Beverly, can you say when that meeting is again, please?
The 25th. So it's next Tuesday. Yeah.
And that will be available
Reminder.
through Zoom.
Yes, that's through Zoom. We had a tour of Richmond Heights Community Center this week to look at their audio visual systems, because those are the same types of systems that'll be going in the multi-purpose room, the aerobics room, and the fitness studio. So the finance director, Darren Mann, is writing the RFQ that's going to go out for that. So it was really good to see and touch the things that are suggested in the drawings for the projectors and the televisions and things like that. We had 2 responses to the fitness RFQ. So we had 2 agencies we're going to be reviewing for that. And then I also have to share with you some detailed renderings of the inside, if you would like to see some inside rent. Now, remember, these are renderings of the community center, if you're interested.
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So what you're seeing here, this is the most detailed plan we've seen yet. And what's really exciting is, and let me see how I can do this. We've had a lot of really big refinements happening. Oh, I went too far. This is what I do every time. I go too far out. Okay. And then I have to slide over. Okay. So we've had a lot of interior finishings really take shape. And so what you're seeing here, and I'm really excited about this. Can everyone see this? This is the indoor playground. Then what the walking path is going to come through here. And what we asked for originally was to have the path come all the way around the play area. But what we're doing now is we have this wonderful slope. There's going to be a 5% slope so that people that are walking can actually get some elevation. And instead of it just being a box, it's actually going to have this organic shape. So this is a 2-tiered shape so that when the play structure is in here, parents can sit here, or we can have story time, or kids can play. So this is wood, and then this is carpeted. So I'll show you a picture of what that looks like. And then we have a big window that's added here. So when people come in, they can see straight into the staff offices, which is really important. So people know that we're there and the Parks and Rec Department is working and that we're available. And then we've made selections on the interior carpets and the paint. So what I'd like to do is show you some of those things. So this is the commercial kitchen, the teaching kitchen. I'm sorry, this is the teaching kitchen. It's not a commercial kitchen, but this is the teaching kitchen, the employee break room, and the catering kitchen for the multi-purpose room. And you can, what you may not be able to see here, let me kind of zoom in a little bit. This counter actually this is the kitchen island for the teaching surfaces, but then these are tables that are the same height that are on casters that can be reconfigured so that people can move around and sit in a class, or it can be laid out flat for the caterers to come in and do their work. And then there's the stoves. And we're talking about or looking at perhaps having a mirror up here. That would be a long-term project. We're not going to do it now because of these beautiful pendant lights. This is stainless steel back here. What you don't see is the hood. We're still waiting on the drawings for the hood to go in. But the whole theme of bringing the outside in and having natural materials and everything is really, really taking shape in here. Then back over here, we have another counter. This will be where the coffee station will be, so that the coffee that's made that goes out into the lobby to serve patrons in the lobby, that'll be right there. And then what you can't see over here is the back of house, the back area where the dishes are done, and the big staff refrigerator for the staff lunches and things like that will be back inside there. This is the indoor playground. So now you really see that beautiful roof, that beautiful tilted roof line we have with the wood ceiling and the big lights coming in through the windows. And this is a really fun sound deafener. These are sound absorption panels, but they chose ones that would look a little bit like leaves. And it may be this color, or there may be a couple that have a slightly different shade on them to have a little bit more motion there. What doesn't happen in these renderings is you can't really get the color of these. Let's see if I zoom in, let's see how much we can get the detail of that. So we have this beautiful flooring in here that is cross-cut wood. And I don't think that you can really get a true understanding of it. But these materials are available in the council chambers. So Jim was able to come by and see them. And if you would like to come and see them, I'd be happy to share them with you. So all of the carpeting and the surfaces have natural patterns on them of water and growing things, which has been just amazing to do. But again, they just don't seem to do very well on this rendering. So this is the view coming in on the lobby. And you can see the welcome desk over here. There's the window into the staff offices. There will probably be a painting here or a big blown up picture of one of our events. And there'll be an attendant here. And the fireplace will be over here. And then the restrooms will go off to the side. But again, this is that cross-cut hardwood floor. And then this is a natural, these are carpet tiles, and they're by Shaw Contract, which is that's what we're hoping for. Again, this is what we're planning it to, but when the bids come in, and it may be slightly different, but we're pretty hopeful that's what it'll be. But you can see the patterns are broken up to help direct the flow of that walking trail. And then this is moving out into the lounge. We have the changing suites. We'll have an application on the wall of a mural, a natural mural. This is just a placeholder here. I just love that they use someone drinking wine and drinking coffee. So, and then this is the gymnasium. This is looking at, so these are those big glass panels. So everyone in the lobby will be able to see straight into the gymnasium. And then up here, what you can't see are those beautiful tilted skylights that bring more light, more natural light into the gym itself. And I'll zoom in here. And we again have the sound absorption panels on the wall in here. That's the nice wood ceiling that kind of floats. And then these are more leaves that float for sound absorption. But inside the gym itself, we have more sound absorbing panels. The furniture here are placeholders because we still, we're still early days in the interiors of the space, but I was so excited to share these with you.
That's really great, Beverly.
Yes, that's wonderful.
That's really
And
great.
from a budget standpoint, I know there's been a lot of material changes and availability and so forth. Are we still,
Yes.
Is the team still confident in terms of what
Yes.
we have?
Yeah, so the community center is on budget, the community center and the maintenance facility. The maintenance facility, we do know, I can't remember if I shared with you last month. The maintenance facility is a prefab building. So when the construction starts, when the ground breaks in August or September, the initial grading will probably happen in August, and the park house will come down. the initial plan was to build the park operations building right away. But what we've learned now is because of supply chain issues from the pandemic, those buildings are 24 weeks out. So the prefab building probably will not be worked on until starting in January, because we go to bid in June. So you select your vendor, then there's a mobilization time period. So by the time they actually order the materials, we're going to be so far out. So that was a huge disappointment. However, the community center is not prefab. They'll be ordering the steel, the concrete and the different things in a different manner, so that they don't anticipate any delays on that. So there's so much work that has to be done to prepare the site before they start bringing in the steel. They don't anticipate any delays there. So we're on budget on both of those buildings. And we're in, we've just, as I said, we have the construction document phase where we're reviewing all those in preparation for the bid documents. The parks, as you remember, are still in schematic design, so they're further back from that. And you know, when we do our budgeting, we start with the master plan. We have an idea, you know, a kind of a rough outline of the price. We go to the concept plan. The costs are more refined. We get into schematic design where we are now. We have a much better understanding of what things cost, but we also are learning a lot more with these surveys. So right now we're grappling with some issues with water supply. And for example, some of the water supply lines to the parks are very small and they may not accommodate splash pads. So we're having to do a lot of investigation to see where can we make some, what's possible, where are some cost savings, and we're going to have to work a little bit harder on these park designs to bring them back down in compliance, because the parks designs right now are not in compliance. So each time, each refinement we do on the design, we get closer and closer to that compliance. And we're still carrying a pretty heavy contingency in the parks. So, you know, we're not going to ever be over budget because we don't operate that way, but it may impact the phasing of some of these projects. So, and that's another reason that we really want to know what we're looking at out there with that ranking.
So I have a question. So I know you said that you, in terms of supply, may be on target, but in terms of pricing for the price of wood and steel has gone through the roof.
It has, yes.
So we haven't bid out that for any of these projects. So how are we guaranteeing that we're going to stay under budget?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing in our favor is we're not using a lot of lumber in the community center. We have some casework in there that's lumber, but a lot of that is particle board, which is a little helpful. But what's really helping us is that our project manager, Navigate, is also building a couple other community centers and schools at the same time. So they have the contract for the Wentzville Community Center that's ahead of us. So as they've been getting their bids and their cost modeling, we've been using that to inform some of our price points. And then we're also running them through the independent trade groups to see, because people are, you know, people are monitoring that. So we have changed the costs on our projects based on that.
Has that run into our contingency? Because even on some of the projects for the school district, you know, what we thought we were going to be able to bill for, we can no longer bill for. So there's adjustments having to be made,
right?
Because of those.
Yeah.
So how far into our contingency are we?
Yeah, we had 3 different contingencies on the community center, and we've used portions of those. So Katie's report next Tuesday, she'll go into detail and show that. So we have used some of those contingencies, but we still have contingency on the community center. We haven't used it all.
Beverly, this was to an earlier point that I think Keisha was making very well about the community and their expectations. And you just kind of dropped something there that made me kind of take notice when you talked about the supply lines as far as the water goes. Are we in danger within the Prop C funds of not being able to do a splash pad at Warson?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think what has happened is we've done a lot of deep dive engineering that we didn't anticipate. So we've learned a lot too. Like until we did some of the surveying, we didn't know. So the original school had a 3-inch water line, but the bill that we pay says it's a 1.5-inch water line. And we found out that there's, I mean, this is probably too technical. We found out that at some point when it was worked on, they put in some sort of a valve they call a finger valve where they ratcheted down that service. So there's been a lot of back and forth between the civil engineer and the splash pad designer about, well, do we take that off? Because there was some talk of providing a whole new service. And so we're still grappling with that. So that's that part of that schematic design that we have to get through those to really know, but there will be a splash pad at Warson. And that splash pad is one of the things we've identified to go for the Muni grant.
Other questions of Beverly?
Are there any other potential structural engineering issues such as like the water lines that we may run into with any of the other projects?
We don't know. That's why we're doing those surveys right now. So far, water seems to be the one that we're really grappling with, but we're also looking at, the parking lots. Those parking lots are really expensive. So one of the things they're looking at with phasing is not allowing the contractor to park in part of the parking lot because we need to preserve it as much as we can without having all the heavy machinery and vehicles and things on it. So it's a big puzzle. And I'm just so thankful that we have Navigate Building Solutions as our project manager, because they really are managing it so well. There's no way we could have done this on our own without them. So we know how well they did with the city center, and we're very confident. So I anticipate we'll get through this, but every construction project is like this. It really is. So there's a newsletter that's going out. It's going to have an update in it, and it'll have information from the update that's given to the council on Tuesday night. So it's good. It's going to have it'll have pictures on it that the public haven't seen yet. So I think it'll be great to get that information out there. And then we're having cards made, business cards made for the Parks crew to have in their trucks, because they get asked all the time. So we've got the Park project website address on there for them to hand to people and say, hey, go take a look. It's right here. So it's moving along. It's construction. This is without a pandemic. It's like this. So it's even harder.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had another question. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was just going to respond to you that at some point we need to go back and look at some of the Prop C information that we put out for that to make sure that if we're not doing exactly that we do have some approaches that we're taking to meet those promises.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't taken anything out at this point that was promised during Prop C.
That was going to be my next question too, like with the park improvements that we're ranking.
Yes.
Will those be part of the schematic designs that they're working on now in the planning phases? Will those be there and then maybe be taken out, or will they just be not in and have to be added? So how does that?
So any project that's identified in the master plan and is on those lists is going to show in the designs. So when you so like that's why that color coding is so important on the phasing, so you can see exactly what's funded in Prop C and what's grayed out that's coming later. So they have to put those things in there now so that we know how to do it in the future. It's not gonna, we're not like saying, oh yeah, down the road, eventually we'll put that there. No, this is actually where it's going, because those adjacencies and the dimensions of the walking paths and everything are around that. So they all have to be in there.
And I think if you look late last week, I think we were all sent the plans for the individual parks. And there's some that are in very much color. And then there are others that are sort of grayed or pinked out or whatever. And that shows the difference between what we're doing and what we're
Right. And that's
doing right now
right,
versus what
right.
we're doing moving forward.
Yeah, and when we gave the update to the public in February, those are the same diagrams we showed at that time, and those are the same diagrams that are in those in the big packet I sent you that has about a month, I think it was about a month and a half ago. You got the big design booklet of all the parks. So you have all of that. The sheets I sent you last week are pages out of that, because it's a lot easier to look at the individual page than have to go through and find them. But those are all in that document that you have.
Okay. Other questions? If not, just looking at the dates, the day camps are starting up, the citywide garage sale. I saw it on the sign by Stacy, as well as it's all over the place. And then June 16th is our next meeting.
Yes, yes. And then we have a couple other things that we've identified. They were identified after this came, but tonight is breaking news. We are going to do the Party in the Park with Fat Pocket, the band that we hired for the 90th. They have agreed to come back, same cost because we already paid for it. But they kept saying, oh, we can't go past this date or whatever, but they are going to come back. We're going to have Party in the Park on, let me tell you, because it's breaking news, so I got to get the right date. It's right after Rosh Hashanah. It is Friday, September 10th. So we're very excited. We have a special event on the books. And then the other thing we're working on is to do a shred event with the e-waste pickup and the drug drop off in the fall. What we're trying to do is do it on a Thursday evening, because every time we have it on a Saturday, we have a lot of residents that say, we can't participate, it's the Sabbath. And we can't get any of the firms to come on a Sunday. So what we're working on right now is we're trying to do it on a Thursday evening. We have the e-waste company will do it. We've got the drug take back can happen, but we're really trying to find a shred company that'll do it. And as soon as that's complete, then we can push that information out. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Okay, anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Just
So
a quick
moved.
question. Will we be, second, will we be returning back to on-site meetings, or are we going to stay like this?
It's up to you. I'll send out another poll. We'll get it, if we get it unanimous, we'll meet in person, no problem.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay. I'm assuming everyone's in favor of adjournment. So,
Aye.
okay. And so we will see you, and thank you all for your time this evening.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everybody.
and let me know if you want to come see carpets or tiles and touch them. Let me know. I'll meet you at City Hall and show them to you. And then don't forget next Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, the 25th at 7 p.m. Is it going to? You can look on the agenda and see where it is.
Bev, those meetings are still virtual only, is that correct?
They are. I think the council members, actually, Missy can probably correct me on this, but the council members are in person. The audience is virtual.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. Everybody, thank you very much for what you do. God bless you. Have a great weekend.
Okay, take care. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you. Bye,
you.
everybody. See you Tuesday.
Okay, bye.